He threw a nuclear bomb about to explode into the ocean, then tied a steel cable around his waist and quickly climbed onto his partner's helicopter to escape. But the carrier fleet in the nearby waters was in trouble because everything happened so suddenly that the soldiers on the warships had no time to evacuate. As the time until the explosion grew closer and closer, their lives entered a countdown. But some soldiers still took protective measures, praying they could survive after the explosion. Soon it was time for the nuclear bomb to explode. In an instant, a huge vortex formed in the ocean, and the surrounding boats were all sucked in. Then came a massive explosion. The helicopter that had already retreated 10 miles away also felt strong vibrations. However, the real danger had just begun. The shockwave from the nuclear explosion was rapidly attacking the fleet. In less than 10 seconds, all destroyers and frigates were submerged by giant waves. Even the aircraft carriers weighing hundreds of thousands of tons were almost capsized. But after the explosion, everyone miraculously survived because the seawater blocked most of the nuclear energy. Plus, the warship shells were hard enough, so this crisis was resolved. However, Jimmy, who threw the nuclear bomb, was not a terrorist. On the contrary, he was a victim of a terrorist attack. 2 years ago, a terrorist attack occurred on the beach. The terrorists opened fire indiscriminately on people at the scene. Jimmy was unfortunately shot, but he didn't find a place to hide. Instead, he searched everywhere for his separated girlfriend. But his girlfriend's situation was worse than his. She was directly hit in the heart. When Jimmy found her, she had stopped breathing. Jimmy survived because of timely rescue, and revenge became his only purpose for living. To this end, he practiced boxing every day and forcibly turned himself from a thin clerk into a fighting expert. Even his coach couldn't beat him. Besides, he also practiced his marksmanship to perfection. Other students were still shooting with pistols, but he actually started spraying with an M4 and hit the bullseye accurately, with precision no less than any Special Forces soldier. After everything was ready, revenge began. Jimmy found information about the terrorists on the dark web and requested to join their organization, but he had to pass some field tests before being allowed to join. So Jimmy followed the information provided by the terrorists and arrived at their base. But he didn't expect this was actually a trap set for him by the other side. As soon as he arrived at the base, he was captured. Now his hands and feet were tied. Even with great abilities, Jimmy couldn't use them.